Well, hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Adventures Travel Club television show. Betty, we find ourselves, of course, in Denmark, and as you remember on our last adventure, we were taking one of the ferry boats across from one part of Denmark into the other, and we see that this beautiful bridge is being built. Yeah. It looks beautiful there, but I think it's going to change a lot of things because the ferry boats will be a thing of the past.
Well,
oh, look.
Isn't that funny?
A toilet
for the dogs. Oh, now you can say I've seen everything,
right,
huh?
Yeah.
Well, you were talking about the bridge, but
yeah.
You know, progress has to take place,
That's
Marv.
True,
you know,
does.
It's a shame, but that's the way the ball bounces.
I think sometimes, you know, when we like to have the progress here, you know, of course, in our own country, but you know, I think one of the thrills of always going to Europe is so that we could see a lot of the things that they kept and
gave
that
away,
or things that we've torn
down.
And so, of course, these boats here that you see here with this
barges,
with, this freight, with the barges, those will all be gone too, I would imagine, because now the trucks will just go ahead and take that across the water. But anyway, it was an interesting trip, and I'm glad that we were still able to take the ferry boats as we were, and there were a few others that we were able to take on this trip as well. But you're right, they will be eventually a thing of the past.
But Marv, don't you think really though that they'll always have a couple plying back and forth?
I don't know. You know
they do in San Francisco. They have the ferry boats now going over to Sausalito.
Yeah, but they don't do it from Oakland though, do they? Like they used to?
Yeah, don't they?
I don't think so.
So. Well, they do
I
from
do think
San
they
Francisco.
Do it to Sausalito.
Yeah, to Sausalito and back.
Well, anyway, we can't solve that problem. But let's listen now because our guide Carol is going to give us some information on the Danish language.
You are now on the little island of Fyn or Funen. The body of water that we crossed is called the Big Belts, Stora Belts. And if you look at the signs, you'll notice that we have a few letters in our alphabet that you do not have. We have actually 3 more letters than in the English alphabet. We have diphthongs, and we have an A and an E put together. They were originally spelt A-E, but eventually became one letter. It's pronounced A. It's written A-E in Danish and in Norwegian, and in Swedish it's an A with 2 dots above it. An umlaut, yes. Then we have an O-E sound, an O with a slash through it, or in Swedish an O with 2 dots above it. And this is pronounced Ö. Ö. And then we have an A with a little O above it. That was originally spelt A-A, and it was a very open A sound, and it is pronounced O. So we have A, Ö, and O. Sounds like a stomachache, doesn't it?
Is the U with the umlaut over it?
We don't have a U with an umlaut. We write a Y instead. That's German, yes. That's perfectly all right. We don't have a U with an umlaut. We would spell that Y.
Are you still in Norway?
Oh, we're still in Norway. We're still in Denmark.
Still in Denmark?
Take a look to the left. You can see one of our super intercity trains. And you probably noticed on the right-hand side a little camping lot. This is the summer holidays for most people in Northern Europe. It's the industrial holidays right now. So now is the time that we'll be seeing tourists everywhere, and a lot of tourists come up with their campers. It's a very popular way of having their holidays.
Well, as we travel along, we're going to wind up going to the house of Hans Christian Andersen. This is not his house. We're going to get a little bit further into town and see. This is what I've been waiting for a long time.
You're always into his stories, huh?
Oh, they're so great. They
Marva,
really are.
I want to stop right now and ask you, where is this town? I'd love to hear you pronounce it. Where did she say we are coming into?
I don't know. Well, she was saying, she said a lot of times it sounds like you kind of spit out the first part of the word and you swallow the last part, and the middle part just goes.
It's so funny to me. For them, of course, it's no problem at all. But when I saw her say or listen to her say the word, and I'm thinking, spell that, you know.
Right. Well, and the thing is, we would pronounce maybe phonetically, but in Danish it would be pronounced, totally different
anyway,
than the way that we would
All
do
right,
that.
then you're not going to try.
I'm not going to try. No,
Okay.
I wouldn't try that. And when we get to
Shame on
Norway,
you.
I won't try that. And when we get to Sweden, I won't try that
Shame
either.
on you. I'm disappointed in you.
Well, I didn't study any of those languages, but here we are. And this is just beautiful. Now, this little street, of course, you can see that's Hans Christian Andersen's house right there in the middle, which we are going to go into. It's now a museum, and it's really something. But look at on the second floor. See the little black things that are sticking out there? Looks like from the windows. We're going to find out what those are in just a moment. These are really, really interesting. I was amazed when she told us what they are.
Don't get any ideas.
Yeah, well, she's going to tell us right now.
Little mirrors. And these were originally used by, the older people when they couldn't get around any longer. They would sit and they could watch all the people walking back up and down the road, and we call them gossip windows. They could keep up with all the goings on.
Well, now, I know a lot of people that probably would like to employ those things even today.
But Marv, really, they have something like that in our department stores, and they're called security, where they can mirror the people coming in.
Well, maybe
and
this
all
was
of
the
their
first security
activity.
system then.
So
huh?
it could have been, we do use that system today.
Yeah. Well,
So who did it first? Maybe they did.
right here in Odense. I did. See, I said it. Okay.
See, you were studying then, because you didn't want to be put to shame by me.
And those windows they can see out of, but you can't see into
that's
because of
they're beveled.
Yeah,
huh?
right. Anyway, a little bit about Hans Christian Andersen as we walk over to his house. He was born in 1805. He lost his father when he was 10 years old, and he lived alone with his mother.
Where did he lose him?
I don't know. Lost him somewhere along the way. Anyway, she was a washerwoman, and of course, this is the town of Odense on Fynen, or Fyn, F-Y-N. I guess that's the way it's spelled too. He always pestered his mom for permission to go to Copenhagen, and he had a dream about going on the stage. But when he was small, his father played the toy theater for him, and that's when his dreams began to be, to develop about stage.
Theater?
You got me. For a long time, his mother resisted his wishes to go to the big city because he was.
Excuse me just a minute.
Yeah.
Look who's up there. There's
Oh,
Eileen
yes.
with that. What is that?
Those are flowers.
Well, I know that, for heaven's
What
sake.
kind of flowers?
But I want to know
Pretty
what
ones.
kind. Were they azaleas?
No, they weren't.
Marv,
but
come
they were
on.
pretty ones. This is inside the house, as you can see, and there's a big rotunda there, and a lot of paintings from the various stories that Hans Christian Andersen wrote. Anyway, he was tall and lanky and gawky, and had a peculiar face with a rather long nose. Therefore, he was teased everywhere that he went. His mom knew that, and so she really didn't want him to go to the big city because she knew that he would, probably be made fun of. However, when she consulted a fortune teller, and the fortune teller told her that eventually her son would become famous all over the world, and that the town of Odense would one day hold a torchlight procession in his honor. Well, then she relented. So in 1819, Hans Christian Andersen arrived in Copenhagen. He was 14 years old, and he traveled as a stowaway because he could not afford the ticket for the stagecoach. So he immediately went to the theater and tried to persuade the solo dancer to get him admitted to the ballet. She looked at him, she took one look, she shook her head and said, and she closed the door on him. But he didn't give up then. So instead of becoming a ballet dancer, then he went and said, well, maybe he could be in the choir. Or the chorus. And so the choir master, a fellow by the name of Siboney, promised to train his voice, but shortly thereafter, his voice started breaking. No, his voice started changing. It started breaking up, So, but he just had to be in the theater. Yeah. And so he didn't have very much in the way of schooling, but he did, at the age of 17, he won a King's Scholarship and was sent to school. And
at 17.
At 17, but he was older than a lot of the other pupils,
so.
But it was important for him to have an education, and he was mostly absorbed in writing for the theater. As a matter of fact, he wrote 30 plays, but today nobody knows of them, and they've all been forgotten. There's a picture of him with part of the family that you can see. And that must have been the younger days there.
Now he looks more mellow there. We sometimes we improve with age, not always.
Well, that's true, but
Now, Marv,
these are very interesting because these those are
those that.
I'm trying to look for the word. I would say cuttings, but that's not it.
No.
It's sort of like this is his own handwriting, by the way. Those were he had a pair of shears or scissors, and he cut out these little figures, and that one that you saw was sort of like a little carousel, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, and he did that because he was reading stories, you know. He happened to develop them for children, and these are some of the sketches that he made. This is looking out of his house down that street that we just came by, but and of course, you know, then when he started writing stories, he started telling the stories first of all, and then he started writing them down, and of course, you know, the rest of that's history. Now, out and back behind the museum, that's what I would call probably the toy theater.
Yeah,
I'm sure some,
because it's very, very small for
Yeah.
children to
Sure,
do their
yeah.
performance.
And
It's like we have our Storyland.
Mhm.
Huh?
Right, and this,
Yeah.
boy, this is the original
So it
Storyland,
would
isn't
be
it?
the original
It's
Storyland.
a beautiful place, and of course, if you do go to Denmark, you really do want to go and take a look at this. And there's also a little library in there for children, and also one for adults, and lots and lots of things to see. Of course, Hans Christian Andersen was, and still is, a very big Danish hero.
Oh, he's forever for everybody throughout
He'll
the
go on.
world are familiar with his stories.
It'll just go on forever because I think his stories were just so delightful. There's the shears that you can see, and he cut out a lot of these little
Can you
paper
imagine
sculptures. I guess that's what I
papers,
want to
and
call
can
huh?
you imagine those little tiny things that with those shears? Did you see how long they were?
Yeah.
But gee, we did this in China. I mean, this is not an art exclusively here.
Oh,
in
no,
Denmark,
it's true.
because
But-
it's done, and we used to get them at the fairs right here in Fresno. They
Uh-huh.
would cut your kids out with papers and stuff.
Cut your kids out? Yeah.
Well, it was
you mean cut
mostly-
the profile? of
Mostly
that, right?
profiles.
Okay.
Right. Okay. No, that,
Oh,
we would
all
do
right.
that
We won't
ourselves.
get into that. Anyway, these are some of the little courtyards that are connected with the house, which of course now is a museum, and of course, very quaint and very colorful. And across the
No,
road, what?
That's easy to tell what
that's,
that is. Huh?
That's a pretzel place. Yeah.
Yes. So good.
Yeah, and it's so nice how these buildings all have been colored, and it looks just very nice. Anyway, that was just a very, very delightful visit to the house there of Hans Christian Andersen. Of course, that really is a must. I mean, it's something that you really have to do when you go there.
Reliving the past, and reliving the past is usually lots and lots of fun.
And of course, the cobblestone streets are still there, right? And
those look like bricks, but they were cobblestones.
no, they're cobblestone. You know, in some countries, what they do is they dig those up, and every few years they turn them.
Yeah.
And then they, bury them back again. A lot of hollyhocks. It was just a beautiful, beautiful day. We were there. Lots of lovely
So
color in
nice
these
not
things.
to have the rain.
Yeah, we can sure say that. That's for sure. Anyway, that was our visit. And as you look down some of these other streets, you will see some of the other flowers. That of course you don't see any lawns there. There we go. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, it's a puzzle to me how they got those colors together.
I don't know.
And people pay a fortune both to have the thatched roof made, then they pay a fortune in insurance afterwards, because of course they catch fire quite easily. You'll not see thatched roofs in Norway and Sweden, but we will be seeing turf roofs there, the thatched roof. Otherwise, what you see are all the buildings are stone houses in Denmark. We don't have.
Well, we've seen thatch roofs, in Ireland, of course, and in England too. And she's right, though. It is expensive. Remember?
I know a little bit about a thatched roof. So you remember when we were in Ireland and we were having a party in this little place, and they were playing Irish music,
The
and
shanachie.
they got up the shanachie, and they got up and they were putting this straw
doing the thatching,
yeah.
yeah.
And it was fun to watch them, and they said the same thing, that there are very few Thatchers anymore. What's the name, except the one in England, Mrs. Thatcher? Oh, thank you.
Very good, right.
But it's picturesque, much
Right.
more so than practical.
If you take a look, you can see a good view of the new suspension bridge across Little Belt. We're going across the old bridge, and bus drivers used to hate this. You can understand why. Because with the big trucks and buses, it was very difficult to get across without having your windows smashed or your mirror smashed. Very often happened. And of course the trains still run here. The trains run on the tracks here to the right. You may have noticed that public transportation is something that is working very well in Denmark, but it works well in all of Scandinavia. It really is a good alternative to driving your own car. We try to encourage people to use the public transportation, but we do it in a very strange way. We do it by making it difficult to park in the cities, making a lot of one-way streets, which means that the people that did actually come in a car use a lot of petrol going around and around and around, trying to find their way through the cities and trying to find a parking lot. And then they say that the people using the public transportation are so few that they've got to put the prices up. So that's the way they encourage us.
Well, as we go along, Betty, I want to take a shot of this little trailer, as you can see here, because as she stated before, this is a vacation time for the Europeans, and we see these little trailers. Of course, most of the cars are small in Europe, and I thought it was interesting because they don't call it a trailer, they call it a caravan.
But look how tiny it is.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe
you can't even see the top of the car in front of it, can you?
No, is that a car
it.
in front of it then? Huh?
It's pulling it, yeah.
Pulling
there's a car pulling it,
thing.
and you see the lampshade just
going back and forth. And I saw a guests over the weekend, and they had an 80-gallon tank just on their pickup for the motorhome they were pulling.
To pull it?
80 gallons.
Boy, good thing they're not pulling it through Europe at the price
that
gasoline or petrol is over there, right? Hey, there's one of those windmills that we see. And, of course, she mentioned in the earlier program that they do a lot of exporting to the United States, and we talked about that on another program, yeah. So you do see a lot of that out there. And if you look off in the distance, you'll see some of the typical Danish construction on the I believe it is a church. That's we don't really see crosses on that all the time, but
I think it's a barn.
You think it's a barn?
I disagree with you.
Well,
sure, look at it. It's right hooked next to another barn there, and that's like a weather vane on
Could
the
be.
top.
You might be
well,
right.
Let's go back and find out.
Okay, I'm really
year?
willing.
No, let's wait another year.
You want to wait another
year?
year?
We'll go back and find out.
Well, we're going to take a look here and find out about a Danish fjord.
And this is the Vejle Fjord. Now we use the word fjord in Denmark, even though it has nothing to do with the correct term for a fjord. The real fjords we will be seeing in Norway, and they don't exist anywhere else but in Norway and Alaska as such, but I'll be telling you more about the fjords when we get to Norway. This is called the Vejle Fjord, but really it's just a little inlet from the sea. A little bay. What we're going to do here in Aarhus is go and visit the old town. It's a collection of buildings from, well, the cities and the country that are collected in this little area. Actually, mostly city buildings. We will be visiting farm buildings when we get to Norway. Just outside of Lillehammer, we're going to be visiting the Mayhaugen Open Air Museum. And here we will be concentrating mostly on the old city buildings, give you an idea of what it looked like in the earlier centuries.
Well, the little area that we're going to go to now, we're in the university town, actually university city, because it was quite a large city, but we're going to go to a place called Our House.
Not my house.
No. And not my house. No, but our house. Right.
Okay.
And we have to go through a little bit of the city here to get to it. And this is an outdoor museum.
That right there?
No,
doesn't
that's
look like an outdoor museum.
No,
to me, it looks
that's
like railroad
that's
station.
the railroad station, right? There it is, Our House, and this is the entrance to it. And this is quite a big village that has been built here. I believe, if I remember correctly, that a lot of these buildings were brought in from other areas of Denmark and then put here. And it's really nice because this is a very relaxing way to really experience history. You can see the architecture. You can go inside. There are barns here. There are some actual shops that we'll see a little bit later on. There's an active post office there. You can buy some Danish pastries or
Yes.
pretzels.
Pretzels.
Couldn't
You know,
say pretzels, right.
I kind of like this kind of museum rather than when you go in and you have all the armory and all the guns. You know, to me, this is
nice.
Grabs me better.
Right. And I noticed, I think a few people brought some picnic lunches too. A lot of the Danes took their children here so that they could experience this as well. And then, of course, as you get inside, you can see here, of course, this is behind glass, right?
Be it ever so humble.
Yeah.
That's not very humble, though, is it?
No, I don't know if I'd like that wallpaper. I think that'd drive me a little bit crazy. And here you're going to go get your prescriptions filled at the
and there's
apothecary.
Marv with his birds.
Yeah, they have beautiful birds there.
You will
and
never
the fish.
see a trip of ours without birds in it, because that goes right with Marv, the camera and the birds.
Oh, well, there's some beautiful birds around the world. Yeah, that show wasn't for the birds. Anyway, this was a beautiful day that we were here, and as I said, it's very nice to just wander at your own leisure, and because there were, as I say, places that were open there, and it was pretty well self-explanatory.
See the water wheel, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very nice.
We've seen a lot of those in our travels.
Yes, we have.
Functional ones too.
That's true. Yes, and a lot of places where we have been. We might want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we do on the Adventurers Travel Club. For those of you that are new to the Adventurers Travel Club and maybe have just caught some of our travel shows, you wonder, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? Well, what we do is...
Now watch out, Marv.
We usually take about 6 major trips a year, and most of these, of course, are out of the country. We've been in Europe, we've been in South America, we've been in the Orient, and...
the only place we haven't been is India.
That's true.
Only
That's a long way away, isn't it?
Is India.
Yeah.
And that was by choice. I had no desire to take a group to India. There's too much poverty, and there's poverty every place
That's
you
true.
go.
This is the dyer's shop. This is where they dye the materials, and you can see the indigo color outside.
I thought it was a mortuary.
No.
Didn't you say the dyers?
Now I see why you don't want to go to India. Okay, anyway, this is the inside of, one of the houses that's there. And, of course, tables are set. It's beautiful, isn't it? Just really beautiful. So you can really experience this. I think it's a great way for the children to, photography shot, great way for the children to sort of look back in history and see how a lot of their ancestors lived. And there's a wine shop right there. And that's so nice. You don't have to have a great big neon sign explaining what it is. Just put the symbol right out there.
I wonder how that would work here.
No,
it wouldn't, huh?
No, it'd be lost.
A conglomeration.
Absolutely lost,
yes.
Right, yeah. But if you do go to Denmark, you make sure that you visit our house. And this is the area.
We'd be
right
happy
there.
to see you.
Oh, a lot of water here. A lot of water.
Well,
Just beautiful.
You were talking
so
a little bit about us, the Adventures Travel.
Right.
And now that we have a little interim here, we could go on a little bit more about it. We've been doing this now for 12 years. Can you believe it? It's been that long. And the main purpose of it was to promote Channel 49, and we are a nonprofit television station, so we leave all the profit from our trips right here to pay our bills.
To help pay our bills.
To help pay our bills. Yeah. So when you travel with us, you not only have a good time, because we do have good itineraries, but you yourself are helping to support a good cause.
Family television right here. And so that is our little story about the Adventures Travel Club, right?
Yes.
I don't know. I think I would like to go to India.
We kind of grew, Marv, we kind of grew like Topsy. You know, we started out in a small way and became successful, and so we just grew, and so many of our people are repeats. So I'm always looking for some place new and exciting to go to.
How about India?
Well, I have wanted to go down to Goa. Goa.
On the west coast of India, right?
And we know that the Taj Mahal is something that's really something.
Maybe
to
one
see.
day we might do that.
And we've been to China so many times, but we've never really done the Silk Trail. We did part of that when we went to Turkey.
That's true.
I mean, the way on up into Tibet or into that
and
area.
all the way then all
that's
that way
a little
into
more
China.
Adventuresome, but it would be a nice trip. And I want to go back to South America because I think that is a great trip.
There's always so much to see and do, and and I talk to a lot of people and say, well, maybe one day I'll go on a trip.
Don't wait.
Don't wait. I talk to a lot of people that say, oh, I wish I would have gone when I felt better, or when I didn't have this ailment or that ailment, and now I just can't go. So don't wait. Just make plans to come and go with us on one of our trips. And Betty always has very interesting itineraries. So all you have to do is give her a call, and we'll give you the phone number at the end of today's program. So we would like to see you travel with us. We do have a very, very good time, and we've been so fortunate in having really wonderful, great people
great
travel
people.
with us,
That,
really.
and they're small groups. We don't take great, huge groups
No.
like you do with some, like the big
Well,
Globus and those.
that's
I
true.
mean,
They're
they have to
they're
have
in it in a
lot.
big, big way,
Yeah,
and we're
yeah.
not. We like to
So
personalize
we have
it.
like 20, 25 people.
Right. So that's a lot of fun. Adventures Travel Club.
And the most beautiful roads in all of Denmark have been picked out by the tourist board and have been called the Daisy Trail. So wherever you go in Denmark, you'll be able to find certain scenic spots, certain nice little roads. We can't take them with the coach, it's too big. But if you're driving in your private car, they will take you off the beaten track and into little villages and around. So very often tourists that come here will try to be following the Daisy Trail.
Well, now we are going to travel on to Randers, and we're going to stay at this beautiful old hotel that Carol was telling us about. In fact, one of our shows we'll have an interview with the lady that owns it, because we were there when the hotel was about, I believe it was about 143 years old. We also had a companion group that was traveling with us, not on our bus, but it was a group from the Lutheran Church, and they were traveling with the pastor and his wife, and this happened to be a Sunday afternoon when we got into Randers, and the piano that you're going to hear in just a minute was played by Victor Bork. Well, and that was, as we stated, the companion group that was with us, and they were playing the piano and having a little singing after dinner, because it was a Sunday evening. Now there's our guides and our drivers for both our group and also the companion group that we had. This hotel is very interesting, and on one of the other shows, we're going to do an interview with the lady that owns the hotel, because it had a fascinating history, and there's some very unusual things that happened in this hotel, and we'll tell you about that a little bit later on. Anyway, this is the outside, as you can see, the Hotel Randers in the small town of Randers, and we really had a wonderful time staying here. We sort of made this our headquarters for a couple of nights in this particular area of Denmark. And Betty, I've forgotten, but we were shooting this at 10 o'clock at night. Can you imagine that?
Well, I find now a little bit that in our town with daylight saving, here in California, we stay light, but it kind of makes you think, golly, it's wonderful.
It is wonderful.
I'd
like to do that
more
all year round.
Have time.
Anyway, that's just about all the time that we have, except to say that if you're interested in any of the trips that we have coming up, give Betty a call at
488-7443.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.